You know those songs that just hit you right in the gut? The ones that feel like they're speaking your own messy, complicated feelings out loud? That's exactly what makes Neil Young's music so special. He's never been about chasing trends or nostalgia. Instead, he listens deeply, plays honestly, and when he talks, it's not to dwell on the past, but to remind us why the past still matters today. For over 6 decades, Neil Young has been this relentless pulse in rock and roll, a stubborn heartbeat that refuses to quit. His albums don't just entertain, they split generations, shaking up what music could be. His guitars sometimes sound like they're breaking down, but in that noise, there's a raw truth. His lyrics don't just tell stories, they almost feel like prophecies. Neil Young isn't someone who follows the crowd. He's more like a ghost, rewriting the rules as he goes. Think about albums like Harvest, Rust Never Sleeps, After the Gold Rush, and Tonight's the Night. These aren't just records, they're seismic events that changed the way people saw music. But even Neil Young, the rebel and the myth, has his own private favorites, albums that shaped him, pushed him, and stayed with him long after the needle stopped spinning. When he shares his top 5 rock albums, it's not just a list, it's a mirror reflecting the path he took and the warnings he carried with him. So, what are these albums that made Neil Young? Well, Neil Young? Let's dive in. Bob Dylan Highway 61, Revisited. If you think some albums just break a few rules, Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited tore up the whole playbook. Released in 1965, this wasn't just a turning point for folk music. It changed the game for songwriting itself. For Neil Young, Dylan's work wasn't just inspiration, it was a challenge. Dylan showed that lyrics could be sharp, dangerous, and unapologetically real. Young once said Dylan gave permission to go anywhere, and that's huge. Highway 61 doesn't ease you in. It smacks you with 6 minutes of electric rebellion right from the start, with Like a Rolling Stone. This wasn't music trying to please, it was music confronting. And for Young, that was a revelation. The album's title is a nod to the highway, stretching from Minnesota down to New Orleans, a route tracing American music's roots from blues to rock and roll myths. Dylan didn't just follow that road, he rewired it. Songs like Tombstone Blues and Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues are dense, chaotic, and full of twists that never fully resolve. They just keep expanding. Dylan treated words like electricity, and Neil Young was plugged in. He described the album as a wake-up call disguised as a rock record. You can hear Dylan's fearless style echoing through Young's own records, especially Tonight's the Night and On the Beach, where polish falls away and raw emotion takes center stage. And that's just it, Dylan showed. Young that a song could stretch out for 11 minutes, break all the rules, and still hit you like a bullet. That kind of freedom changed everything for him. Highway 61 wasn't just folk or rock, it was prophecy pressed on vinyl. Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. Next up is the wild, sprawling beast that is Exile on Main Street. Neil Young doesn't give out compliments lightly, but this 1,972 double album from the Stones gets his full respect. It's like chaos caught in a groove, messy but magnetic, recorded mostly in the basement of a villa in the south of France. While the band was dealing with serious drama, tax problems, drug issues, and broken friendships, the album feels raw and unfiltered. But that roughness isn't a mistake, it's the point. Keith Richards' guitar seems to crawl out of the speakers, and Mick Jagger sings like he's mumbling to ghosts, and yet, somehow, it swings. Songs like Rocks Off and Rip This Joint sound like they're barely holding together, but that's where the magic lives. It's the space between the notes where life seeps in. Young saw in Exile a kind of freedom, not the clean, polished studio kind, but the spiritual kind, where you just let the tape run and let imperfections show. It's a commitment to feeling over finish, and it deeply influenced albums like Ragged Glory and Tonight's the Night. Neil said, "They didn't try to fix it. That's what makes it perfect." For him, this was proof that surrendering control can make music immortal. The Velvet Underground. The Velvet Underground and Nico. This album wasn't a commercial hit when it came out in 1967, but for Neil Young and countless others, it was seismic. The Velvet Underground and Nico changed the idea of what rock could be, pulling music into weird, dark corners nobody else dared explore. Lou Reed's lyrics were bare and unpolished, not dressed up for easy listening. Warhol's iconic banana on the cover wasn't a gimmick, it was a dare. Neil admired how they just did what no one else would do without asking for permission. The album is both cold and intimate. You're not just hearing it, you're eavesdropping on something raw and real. Songs like Sunday Morning feel like a lullaby trapped in fog, while Heroin documents addiction without glamorizing it. The music is a strange mix of noise and silence, with instruments clashing and colliding in ways that felt like a new language. For Young, this wasn't just about sound, it was about bravery and the courage to let songs rot in real time, to make beauty out of decay. He once said, "It's the tension that makes you stay, not the release." That tension, that space between notes and words, is a hallmark of Young's own style. The Velvet Underground didn't care if you understood them, they knew feeling was enough. Neil took that lesson to heart. He never chased the mainstream, he just made his underground louder. The Beatles' Rubber Soul. When we talk about albums that flipped the script on pop music, Rubber Soul is right at the top. Released in late 1965, it was the moment the Beatles stopped copying rock and started reinventing it. Neil Young holds this album in deep respect because it changed how songs could be written. Gone were the simple pop hooks. In came complexity, doubt, and reflection. Lines like, "I once had a girl," or should I say, "she once had me," weren't just clever, they were honest. Rubber Soul isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet and full of subtle shifts. The introduction of the sitar on Norwegian Wood opened new sonic doors, and In My Life feels like a late-night meditation on memory and loss. This album taught Neil that music didn't have to hide behind a happy face. It could explore regret, distance, and miscommunication. It wasn't about perfection, it was about presence. The rough edges, the background noise, the slight imperfections, they all made the album feel lived in and human. Young absorbed that lesson and carried it into his own introspective works like Harvest and After the Gold Rush. The Beatles didn't just make pop, they opened a space where vulnerability could breathe. Joni Mitchell Blue. Finally, there's Blue by Joni Mitchell, a record that's as quiet as it is powerful. Neil Young has called it one of the greatest albums ever made, and it's easy to see why. Released in 1971, Blue is stripped down to piano, guitar, and Joni's voice. No tricks, no production, hiding behind the pain. It's raw, intimate confession. Songs like River, A Case of You, and All I Want aren't performances, they're revelations. Joni's courage to be so exposed was inspiring for Neil. It's the same fearless honesty he aimed for in Tonight's the Night, where he laid bare loss and addiction without mask or apology. Blue flips the myth that loud equals powerful. Sometimes it's the quiet that cuts, the deepest. Mitchell's phrasing and open tunings created a new way of writing that felt more like thought than formulaic songcraft. Neil learned that not every song needs to resolve, some are meant to ache. Her voice was, as Young put it, a scalpel that cuts exactly where it hurts. She wrote maps for navigating pain and beauty, and those maps still guide him. Sometimes, it's the silent moments in music that carry the most weight, and Blue taught Neil that. Neil Young didn't set out to be a rock star, he wanted to feel deeply and make sure we felt too. When he names these albums Highway 61 Revisited, Exile on Main Street, The Velvet Underground, and Nico, Rubber Soul, and Blue, he's sharing more than favorites. He's holding up a roadmap, showing us how beauty lives in imperfection, how noise can tell truth, and how silence can scream. These albums didn't just influence him, they made him who he is. And maybe, just maybe, they can do the same for you. So, what album changed everything for you? Drop your thoughts below, share the ones that never left your soul, and if you're feeling it, hit subscribe. Because the best music? It doesn't just end, it keeps peeling back new layers of who we are.